Okay, hi, I'm Elliott, Klein, the CEO of New York Psychotherapy. Welcome to this afternoon's NYPCC Cafe. We have a very important topic to discuss today. Unfortunately, during the course of the pandemic, we found more and more cases of domestic violence, and we have a great lineup of speakers today. I see we have members of the Bronx DA's office, the NYPD, professors, somebody from the mayor's office, and two elected officials, Natalia Fernandez and Amanda Septimo. We're very happy that you're all partnering with New York Psychotherapy. We're very pleased to be able to disseminate this information to the community. Of course, a special shout out to our community outreach team that's literally on foot in the Bronx and working hand in hand with all of our partners and CBOs to serve the people of Bronx County. And so sit back and enjoy. We have, as I said, a tremendously excellent lineup of speakers, and hopefully you'll gain a lot of knowledge out of today's cafe. So back to you, Jonathan. I guess Selena.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, boss, for that warm welcome. Welcome, everyone. My name is Selena LeBron, and I'll be your moderator for today. Please be sure to stay tuned for our customary checkout session towards the end. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you today our guest speaker for the day. Ms. Engy Hanna is a school social worker with the School-Based Mental Health Prevention and Intervention Program at the Jewish Board of Family and Children Services. Here she provides direct services to students and their families while facilitating presentations to bolster appropriate mental health awareness among school staff. Ms. Engy is also an adjunct professor in the Social Sciences Department at LaGuardia Community College. Here, Engy uses her platform to shine light on the intersection of domestic violence and criminal justice. Without further ado, Ms. Engy Hanna.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that welcome, for that lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about a topic that's so close to my heart and something that I'm so very passionate about. So let me start off by sharing my screen. All right. So today's topic is going to be about the true color of love, right? So we're going to be talking about love, relationships, healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about a concept that many of you have probably heard and are probably tired about hearing it because you feel like you won't accomplish it. But the short answer is yes, you will. It's just a journey. And that is the path to self-love, right? So self-love becomes a concept that becomes very difficult for many of us to grasp, whether you're a man or a woman. And there are many reasons for that, right? For starter, we are not born not liking ourselves, right? We are taught this through messages that we hear. For example, society also has taught us messages about how to not love our body because it's teaching us what a perfect body looks like, what beauty looks like in a man, in a woman, right? But then in addition to that, we have the environment that we live in, whether that's family, friends, possible childhood bullies in the past, right, who have taught us and fed us these negative messages, letting us think that we are not enough, that we are not beautiful enough, that we are not smart enough, that we will never amount to anything, right? And so we've begun to digest all these messages and begin to internalize all these messages about ourselves, and it sticks with us and it becomes a lifelong scar that stays with us, right? And it's more like invisible compared to physical scars that are more visible. So with that being said, the path to self-love becomes a lifelong journey, right? And reason why that becomes a lifelong journey is it requires a lot of undoing of all the messages that you've learned, right? Constantly reminding yourself that you are enough, that you are worthy. And in doing so, you have to tone up your muscle, right? And so what do I mean by that? A lot of people like, what do you mean toning up the muscle? So think of it this way, right? When you work out, right, whether it's at home or gym, of course, because of the pandemic, a lot of us are home. When you're working out, you have to be consistent, right? Eating healthy, working out for 2-3 days a week, right? Consistency to kind of like tone up that specific muscle, tone up your stomach, tone up the abs, right? And so that's what the brain becomes. It is a muscle that you constantly have to work on to tone, right? So it requires a lot of repetitive behavior, right? Constantly telling yourself you're beautiful. And that it doesn't, like, positive affirmations doesn't work for everyone, right? So figuring out what works for you, it is about trial and error, but just know it doesn't happen over an hour, right? And so if you wake up one day and you're like, well, I told myself last night that I love myself, why don't I feel this way? Because it requires you to practice, right? You have to undo years of those learned messages and learned behaviors. So simply writing affirmations on your phone. I know people that send reminders to themselves that they are beautiful, that they are worthy, that they are enough, right? Telling yourself, I am kind, gentle, patient, and understanding with myself. Simply staying true to yourself, even if it means disappointing another. And so putting your happiness first, right? Treating yourself with kindness and respect, we can become our worst enemy, right? And again, it is not because we are born this way, we are taught this way, right? We are taught that, like, oh, if we're not enough, then if I make a mistake, then I'm not enough, right? So we become so harsh on ourselves. So learning to forgive yourself. If you make a mistake, tell yourself, like, yes, I messed up, but I know I can do it better next time, right? Accepting yourself fully, and nurturing and toning your growth and well-being, right? Remember, it is a muscle that you constantly have to work on to tone up, right? And so self-love encompasses not only how you treat yourself, but also your thoughts and feelings about yourself. So I want you to keep that in mind as we continue to go through the rest of the presentation. And so what is a relationship, right? And we just witnessed some lovely videos that explain a little bit about what a relationship is. A relationship is between two people or group who feel the same way towards each other, right? Especially if it involves romantic or sexual feelings. But then, so what is a healthy relationship and an unhealthy relationship? So a healthy relationship is a relationship where you feel fully safe to be yourself. You are silly. You don't care about what you say because you feel comfortable to say what you say, right? Without feeling that you might be harmed or without feeling that you might be disliked. So you don't have to filter what you say around people, right? You feel comfortable, you feel secure around this person, you trust them, right? You fully can be yourself around them. Versus an unhealthy relationship, it's a place where you don't feel really safe, right? You feel insecure, you feel exhausted, right? You feel like you're being controlled. You have to filter what you say because you worry about the consequences and you worry about what's going to happen. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in details as well. And so characteristics of a healthy relationships, again, comfortable pace, right? Going at your own pace, not feeling like you have to rush things to be with this person. Trust, not only trusting the other person, but also trusting yourself and knowing that, like, this is a good relationship, right? Honesty, independence, feeling like you feel independent, like you do not have to rely on this person for happiness. You don't have to rely on this person to take you to certain places, right? You are fully independent, and that there's respect in the relationship, equality, kindness, right? When a partner holds themselves accountable in a relationship, right, for their actions, rather than making it seem like it's your fault, which we will talk about later on as well. And healthy conflicts, right? So when it comes to healthy conflicts, many are like, well, I thought like arguing is okay. In certain cases, yes. If it's a disagreement, yes, right? If it's, think of it this way, if it's not repetitive, and again, we will talk about that a little bit later, if it's not a repetitive argument and it's a simple disagreement that you both can recover from, then that's what a healthy conflict is, right? And simply having fun with each other, just being full, silly humans together. And so unhealthy relationship is the complete opposite of that, right? There is manipulation in a way where it's like they make you feel like you did something wrong. Oh, you're crazy, not me, saying things like that, right? Making you feel like you are the bad one in the relationship, forcing you to practice isolation, right? If no one can have you, then no one else. If I can't have you, then no one else can. So trying to sabotage your relationship with your family, saying things like, oh no, like they're not good people, and like talking bad about you to your family and saying that you're talking bad. Same thing when it comes to friends, like sabotaging basically the friendships and family around you in order to create that isolation. And then belittling, right? Minimizing you for things that you do. Again, more negative messages adding on to the way you view yourself, such as you're ugly, you are stupid, right? Guilting you into thinking that you are doing something wrong, right? That it's all you, I'm not doing anything wrong. If you didn't do this, then I wouldn't behave this way, right? And deflecting that behavior on you. And then of course, betrayal, right? And of course, these signs of unhealthy relationship can also lead to a toxic relationship, right? And so what a toxic relationship is that it continues to be repetitive. Again, right, there's that pattern. It is every day to the point where your body just feels so drained, right? You feel like you are walking on eggshells. You feel like you constantly have to ask for permissions to call people, to call family, to call your friends, to go outside to the park, to go for a walk, right? Because then this person makes you feel like they don't trust you, or like, if you leave, I don't feel good, so I need you to be here to take care of me, right? Again, guilting you and playing that victim role and making you seem like you're the bad person in the relationship, right? And so again, that constant exhaustion, feeling isolated, becoming, and again, it'll escalate to violence, right? And there are several signs of abusive relationships, right? A lot of people wonder, well, if I'm in a relationship where I'm married and I am in a long-term relationship, then sexual abuse, does that really exist? Absolutely, right? If you are not consenting to sexual relationships in the moment, then that is sexual abuse. Simply because you are married to this person or you're in a long-term relationship with them doesn't excuse them from waiting for your consent, right? So sexual abuse is one form of abuse that happens in relationships. Psychological abuse, emotional abuse, and verbal abuse all fall under the same umbrella, right? So it's the constant messages that they're feeding you that you are nothing without me. You are not enough. You will never find anyone other than me, right? This is all your fault. If you didn't behave this way, I would have loved you. If you were beautiful enough, I would have loved you, right? So that constant words that you hear that may, again, not leave bruises that are visible like physical abuse, but leave lifelong bruises that are invisible, that stay with you for a really long time. And no matter how hard you try to fight it, you somehow still hear it in the back of your head, right? And then, of course, financial abuse. Financial abuse could be that they take your paychecks, right? They take your food stamps. They control all the bills, right? You don't know anything when it comes to their income or the income of the household, right? Giving you small allowances, controlling how much you pay for certain things. So when you go out, they require you to bring a receipt to see how much you actually spend, right? Controlling your every single move, including the money that you even make and try to spend, right? And reproductive coercion is another form of abuse that they use to kind of also guilt you and make you feel like you can't leave, right? Because having children is a way where it makes them feel like, well, now you're stuck with them, right? You have a kid that you have to worry about, and they start to threaten the kid as well. If you leave me, then something is going to happen to the kid, right? And then digital abuse is when they control your every single form of email, phone, texting, social media, right? They track all of that. They make sure to check who you're calling, who you're texting, who are you messaging on social media, what posts are you liking, right? So with that being said, abuse in relationship and the forms of abuse in relationship varies, right? There's several forms of abuse. And so another thing when it comes to abuse, right? Why does it happen? It's really about that power and control, right? The person does it because they want that feeling of power. They want that feeling of control. And it becomes like a vicious circle, right? What that circle is that like, it starts with love, right? But then it goes into intimidation, and then it goes to emotional abuse and isolation and threats, and then going back again to love. And it's that honeymoon phase that continues to go in circles, right? It's that level of toxic behavior that, yes, goes in circles, but then they bring you flowers and convince you to forgive them, right? Making you think that, oh, well, they're gonna change, right? So they use things like threats. Sometimes they threaten to kill themselves, right? Oh, well, if you leave me, I will kill myself. I will do illegal things. I will hurt myself. And if you leave, it'll be your fault, right? Or making threats towards your family. Well, if you leave, I will hurt your family. Or if you leave, I will hurt your child, right? Again, which then leads to intimidation, right? Intimidating them by breaking things in the house, like showing them basically look what I am capable of. This is how I am capable of hurting you, right? And that goes back to emotional abuse, right? Saying things to put them down, right? We're not just gonna say her, right? Because abuse also happens to men, right? It happens to both genders. And so we're just going to say they, right? It's putting them down, making them feel bad about themselves, calling them names, again, making them feel like they're crazy, playing mind games, right? And embarrassing them, right? And then using isolation, where the isolation process starts slowly, right? Don't go out with friends. I want to hang out with you. Don't go out with your family. No, let's do this together. Like, why do you always want to spend time with your family and not me, right? Slowly isolating you from people until they fully have you. And that way you don't have a form of support network to lean on when you need to, right? You only have them, right? So making them feel like they are the only ones in your circle, right? Minimizing and denying and blaming, right? Not taking your concerns seriously. Oh, come on, it wasn't like I only hit you because you kind of like forced me to do so, right? Saying things like, well, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have hit you, right? Rather than holding themselves accountable. And again, using children to make you feel guilty, right? Using economic abuse, and in certain relationships, using that male privilege as well, right? Where it's like, well, I make all the big decisions. You don't do anything. It's me. I run everything. And so why are we talking about this, right? Why is it important to have an awareness of these topics? Well, for many reasons, right? For a starter, these relationships can just take a toll on you, negative toll on you without you even realizing. It affects your physical health, your mental health. You're constantly feeling like you're drained. You have no energy. You're always unhappy, right? Your mental health just starts decreasing tremendously, right? And then you start to place pressure on yourself to change things about yourself. Well, maybe if I put on makeup, they will love me more. Maybe if I get a better job, or maybe if I'm nicer to them, and constantly having to think about changing who you are as a person, changing your personality, right? Which then alone just can become physically and emotionally drainful and harmful. Can you imagine just having to sit every single time and tell yourself that, well, I'm not enough, I need to change, I need to do this, I need to fix this, and just constantly being obsessed with fixing ourselves for these people rather than just loving ourselves for who we are, right? And then also the idea of idolization, right? The idea of idolizing what an ideal partner is, which is rooted alone in unconscious or semi-conscious desires that have been influenced by culture and biological forces, right? Again, it goes back to the world and people who are in our environment who convince us of what an ideal partner looks like. Oh, well, they have the perfect job, they have the perfect smile, they have wonderful hair, your friends and family love them, right? Which then leads you to become blind to these red flags, right? You become blind to the red flags of what a toxic relationship is, because then you have society and friends and family convincing you, well, they seem to be in the ideal partner, they have it all, right? But just asking yourself that question of, do they have it all, right? The fact that you're considering, is this person safe for me? Is this relationship safe for me? Is a red flag within itself, right? So having to realize that, like, maybe this person is not an ideal person for me, right? Maybe I deserve more. And not maybe, I do deserve more, right? And that's why having an awareness of these red flags at the beginning can be so important to learning what a toxic relationship looks like and if it's time for you to walk away. And so with that being said, where can one get help, right? If you feel like you're stuck in these relationships and it has gotten to be toxic and unsafe, then if you feel like you are in immediate danger, call 911. If you feel like it is 911 is going to put you at risk and you know calling them will put you at risk, then call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, right? They have counselors who are available 24/7 a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to just provide you with confidential counseling, crisis intervention, safety planning, and the list continues, right? And they are likely to refer you to domestic violence agencies that no one will know the address to except you. Right? You can look up the agency online all you want, but you will not be able to find out that address until you call them and let them know you are a victim or survivor of abuse and you are in need of help, right? And that's also for confidentiality reasons and for safety purposes. And seeking professional help may not be the easiest thing, right? And why? It's because we also have a helping personality. We help everyone else but ourselves. We tend to forget about ourselves. And so when it comes to seeking professional help, we're like, no, we're okay, we're fine, we'll get over it, we got this, right? But sometimes we all need that little help, just like we help others, right? And if you go see a therapist and you don't like that therapist, because I don't know, you felt like they weren't an effective therapist, just like there are good therapists, they could be bad therapists as well. And see it as this way. When you're sick, you go to the doctor, right? But sometimes you don't like the opinion of this doctor. So you go to another doctor and you keep going to another doctor until you finally find that doctor that you feel comfortable with, that you feel a sense of connection with, right? And that you trust their opinion, right? And that's exactly what it's like with therapists, right? If one therapist doesn't work, try the other therapist, right? Give them a shot. Give them the, and even tell them that like, hey, I don't feel comfortable in these sessions. How can we fix these sessions, right? And in a way, it'll help you learn ways to speak up on your behalf, right? To learn what you look for in a therapist, the qualities you look for in a therapist, and most importantly, to learn about the help that you actually deserve. And of course, one of the best agencies is the agency that's facilitating this, the NYPCC, right? They are a telehealth service that's available with flexible schedule because of what's happening, right? Now everything is telehealth. They're open 7 days a week. I'm not talking about 5 days a week, but they're open 7 days a week. There is absolutely no wait list, right? With this pandemic and what's happening and the increase of mental health, there has been tremendous wait lists in certain agencies, but this agency specifically does not have a wait list. They intake children 3 years and up, right? Family therapy is a must, which is amazing because in order to service the child, you have to service everyone around them. Right? Again, it's about that environment. It's about the society that's around you. We do not learn this. This is taught to us, right? We don't learn it on our own. Then there's individual and couples therapy, adult client care coordination services, bilingual psychiatrists providing medication. And again, don't shy away from this because they provide medication. If medication is not the thing for you, it is something that you can always discuss with your therapist, right? Services are provided in several languages, and they are always ready and able to go the extra mile to help children, families, and communities. And the best part also is they always have workshops like this, whether it's in person or virtual, about mental health, grieving, stress management, anxiety, the list continues. So I encourage you to even attend the workshop just to educate yourself on these topics, because sometimes we might not know because we are so busy caring for others that we forget about our own mental health. And they're also located in Bronx, Bushwick, and East New York. But if you are not in any of these boroughs, again, services are remote. So feel free to schedule a telehealth session. And again, thank you so much for having me. And please call them today if you feel like you need the support after this. And yeah, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you, guys.
Wow, Ms. Hanna, thank you so much for such an informative presentation and for also representing NYPCC so well. I don't know, Sandy, we need to grab her on, right? And have her as one of the staff member.
Read my mind.
So we thank you so much. I know I feel like I gained so much, and I hope that the rest of our attendees feel the same way.